Mr. Speaker, this bill authorizes Donald Trump to recklessly impose a death penalty on any nonprofit in America that happens to be on his enemies list. With this bill, he can destroy the very life of civil society in this country, one group after another, even though the group involved that he targets as a terrorist supporting group has not violated a single law. Even though the group has not been presented with a shred of evidence or the public for doing this, without offering any specific explanation or reason as to why the life is being taken out of this civil society group, and without providing a day in court, a hearing, and without any meaningful right of appeal, no matter how capricious, no matter how unjustified Trump's action may be. H.R. 9495 is a repackaged version of legislation that was originally filed months ago with good intentions, including that of some of my Democratic colleagues. With Trump's election, the conditions have changed. The dangers of granting additional power to him are far outweighed by any benefits from this bill. This is the same Trump who vowed to be dictator on day one and has declared the greatest danger our country faces today is the enemy within. This bill is now opposed by a growing number of civil society groups, over 120 groups, the ACLU, the Brennan Center, the NAACP, Planned Parenthood, the Center for American Progress, the American Federation of Teachers, a list that goes on, the Freedom of the Press Foundation. This legislation is done in the name of stopping financial support for terrorism. All of us support stopping terrorism. Like everyone here, I've done that, and I have previously voted for this very language, not once but twice, though the last time it came before our committee, I voiced the very same concerns about the lack of due process that I voiced today. Since none of the deficiencies of this bill have been corrected and no amendment is offered today, we must reject it. If he is on a march to make America fascist, we do not need to supply Donald Trump with any additional weapons to accomplish his ill purpose. Our freedoms will not be destroyed in one great blow. No, it will be 1,000 cuts over the term of this administration, undermining our liberties one after another. To those who say that this bill only applies to groups that are supporting terrorism, consider how very expansive that term can be, both at home and abroad. The foreign tyrants that Donald Trump so much admires have imprisoned journalists, academics, and rights activists by claiming that they are supporters of terrorism. State and federal elected officials in this country have called for terrorism investigations or prosecution of major news outlets. Trump himself has criticized and labeled anti-racist activists as terrorists. Some have mischaracterized environmental groups as eco-terrorists. Under this bill, Trump's list of targets would only be limited by his imagination, not any guardrails in the bill. For example, Trump claimed that Democrats, myself included, who didn't clap enough for him in this chamber when he gave his first State of the Union, were traitors, that we were treasonous. He could target organizations that assist refugees for harboring terrorists, Planned Parenthood or a hospital for the alleged terror of abortion, an environmental group mislabeled as an eco-terrorist, a private university that permits too many anti-Trump demonstrations, a disability rights group that is objecting to Trump's interference with the Affordable Care Act, a shelter offering housing to, I yield myself another 2 minutes. A shelter offering housing to LGBTQ youth, a Vietnam Veterans of America group that previously declared Trump's attacks on Gold Star families disgraceful and un-American, think tanks that don't happen to think the way Trump wants it, groups fighting Christian nationalism, or simply any tax-exempt group not viewed as sufficiently pro-MAGA. Now, let's talk about the examples, the two examples that the chairman just referred to. He thinks the IRS commissioner has not acted swiftly enough, and it sounds like perhaps he's right. Well, who do you think appointed the IRS commissioner? His name is Donald J. Trump. The defect is not in the law as it exists today, but on the question of whether or not there has been proper administration of the law that exists today that can deal with terrorism. If the real purpose of this bill as well were simply to postpone tax filing deadlines for the very small number of Americans that have been detained hostage, as wrong as that is, are approving right now the bill that has lingered here as Republicans shelled it for 6 months, that the Senate approved to do that, to provide them that protection. We can put that bill on the president's desk right now. The very fact that the Republicans use this claim of helping hostages, it's a subterfuge, because what it's really about is empowering Trump to do more harm. They are, in essence, holding the hostages hostage once again. I yield back and reserve the balance of my time.
The chair